You are welcome to the tutorial for Office Suite in Education. We take our third session on Spreadsheet, and as you know, we are using the MS Excel program to learn the spreadsheet. We take our third session, which is creating and managing functions. That will be our topic for our third session. In our previous session, we learned how to create formulas. There could be times that the formula we may need to construct could be complex, complicated, and long. Microsoft Excel provides us with a resource that we can use to deal with such situations. And this resource is called functions. Functions serve as a shorter means of constructing formulas that would have been complex and long. In this session, we will learn about functions. Specific areas to be covered in our session today will be to explain what functions are. We will look at the parts of a typical function. And then we shall also look at the types of functions we can find in MS Excel and most spreadsheet programs. And we shall learn how to use some of these functions in spreadsheet. So let's get started. Let us look at how we define functions. The first definition for functions is that it is a predefined or preset formula that performs calculations using specific values in a particular order. A function is a predefined or preset formula that performs calculation using specific values in a particular order. Functions can also be defined as a built-in formula that performs computations based on the values given by the user. It is a built-in formula that performs computations based on the values given by the user. The last definition we will give functions is that they are integrated formulas created to manipulate data and calculate strings and numbers. They are integrated formula created to manipulate data and calculate strings and numbers. In simple terms, we can say they are built-in or integrated formulas used to compute results. So all these are the definitions that we can give functions. Let us look at the parts of a function. How we construct or state a function or formula is called a syntax. In other words, the format for stating a formula or function technically is referred to as the syntax. There is a general syntax for stating functions. However, some functions may have additions to the general syntax that we are going to look at. The parts of a function are 1. The equal sign, followed by the function's name, and then we have the arguments enclosed in a bracket. So you can see an example of a function given us here. The equal sign comes first, followed by the function's name, and then followed by the argument. Always start a function with an equal sign. Remember, a function is a formula. So once it is a formula, it must begin with the equal sign. Then, after the equal sign, we have the function name. And the function name is simply the name assigned to the function by the developers. That is the name given to the function by those who created the program. Arguments can refer to both individual cells and cell ranges containing the values to be computed. Individual cells can contain values, and those values in them can be used to compute a result. So they will form part of the argument. In most situations too, the values may be contained in continuous cells, which we refer to as cell range. So if you notice from this point, you see that the cell range is a group of cells following one another or are continuous. If individual cells are used, that is, if the cells containing the values you are going to use as part of the argument are not following one another, that is, they are not in a range, then you need to state each one of the cells and separate them by commas within all enclosed in brackets. For cell range, you don't need to state the individual cells. What you do is you state the beginning and ending cell references and separate them with a column. So as you can see here, this argument is a cell range. So the cells beginning from A1 to A20, so all the cells from A1 to A20 form part of the argument. But once they are following one another, we don't need to state them one after the other. No, we just have to state the beginning cell followed by a column and then the ending cell. How do we create a basic function? The steps for creating a function are given to us as follows. 1. Select the cell that will contain the function. 2. Type the equal sign and enter the desired function's name. 3. Enter the cell range for the argument inside parentheses. That is, if you are using a cell range. But if you are using cells that are not following one another, then you state each one of them and separate them with commas. Afterwards, you press the Enter key on your keyboard. Once you press the Enter key, the function will calculate and the results will appear in the cell. Categories of functions in Microsoft Excel. There are over 300 functions in the Microsoft Excel program. And these functions are categorized as follows. We have text functions, we have logical functions, we have information functions, there's also date and time functions, there's also lookup and reference functions, math and trig functions, statistical functions, database functions, financial functions, engineering functions, cube functions, and web functions. We start with math and trig functions. You will of course not be able to learn all the categories of functions here. We will focus on a few, but I believe in time you will explore the others. As I said, we start with the math and trig functions. And some of the functions under math and trig are sum, count, and round. The sum function. The sum function is used to find the total or summation of a set of constant values or values in cells. The sum function is used to find the total or summation of a set of constant values or values contained in cells. The count function. The count function is used to tally the total number of values selected. The count function is used to tally the total number of values selected. The round function. This function is used to round up a number to a determined decimal place. So when you are doing mathematics, and you have a value dot something something something. You know, when you are told to round up the figure to, let's say, 2 decimal places on paper, you know how to do it. Here we are going to use a function to do the rounding up. That is the round function. So let us look at an example here. We have these products and the sales made for each month for these products. Okay, and we may be asked to compute the total of each of the products sale, each of the quantities sold. Okay, we'll be asked to compute them. When you look down here, the format for the sum function is equal to followed by sum, and then you have the arguments enclosed in the brackets. So we have an example: sum equals sum into bracket A1 to A7. And then we also have count. So we may be asked to count how many products are we selling. So 1, 2, 3, 4. We will not have to do so with our mouth, but we may use the function, which is the count function. So we have count, and then the arguments enclosed in the brackets. An example is equals count into bracket C6 to C20. Let us have a practice of this. First of all, you enter the values here into the Excel program. Okay, you launch and you put these values and text in Excel. You can pause the video to do so, but for want of time, we are continuing. So let's open Excel. Alright, because of time, I have already typed the figures here. So if, let's say, we are to find the total number of exercise books sold between January and April, what function will we use? We will use the sum function. The first thing you are told to do is to type the equal sign. After typing the equal sign, you bring the the function's name, and the function we are going to use is sum. So you type sum, and then you bring your opening bracket, and you notice that the cells are following one another. That is, the cells containing the values you are going to use are following one another, so they form a cell range. And we are told that once they form a cell range, we just bring the beginning cell, which is B3, then type the column sign, and then we type the last cell, which is E3. And you notice that once we type the last cell, the entire range is selected. When you are done, you close the bracket and then you press the enter key. Once you press the enter key, you notice that the result is computed and displayed in the cell. So this is the function equals sum B3 colon E3 to find the total of these values. If you want to compute the total of this, the same thing here, equals sum into bracket this colon that. Okay, then you close the bracket, you press enter. Again, look at the function in the formula bar. Alright, once it is similar formulas we are going to construct for these, we will just copy the formula by clicking the cell containing the formula or function, and then we put the mouse pointer on the dot at the right corner, and then we drag down. Alright, so we have copied the formula. So that is how we use the sum function. Let us look at how we can use the count function. As we said, the count function is used to find the tally of a set of values. Okay, so for instance, products, I'm typing here, products on sale. Okay, let me put this in yeah, so product on sale. Okay, you let me leave it like that, then type the function here. Let's say we want to count the number of products, so equals, I don't know if once they are text whether it will count on, but let's try count into bracket these, bracket close, enter. Well, I couldn't count because they are text, but we can use the values here. Okay, so equals count into bracket these values assigned. Okay, then we close, we press enter, and you notice that it has been able to count. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4, so there are 4 values here, and it tells us that the number of products on sale will be 4. So they are used to count values selected. Okay, let us find the total of these sales using the sum function. Type it and let's see on your system. Sorry, you first of all have to type all this information, so you can pause the video and then type. Then when you are done, use the sum function to find the total for each of the products sale. Alright, so it will be equal sum, then opening bracket, you select. When I select, you notice that the first and last cells in the range have been stated. Okay, but when you are writing, remember that you bring the first and last cell references of the range. Then when you are done, you close the bracket and then you press the enter key on your keyboard. So these are the total sales for exercise books. Let us copy this function. Go drag it down. Alright. Now you notice that we have different number of decimal places. So we want it in such a way that it will just be one decimal place. Okay. So what function are you going to use? We use the round function. How do we state it? It is a formula, so it begins with an equal sign. And the function's name is round, so we type round. Then we bring the bracket open. Then for this one, sorry, let me go back and show you. This is the format. You state the number, and here the number being the cell reference containing the number. And then you bring comma, and then you state the number of decimal places that you want. You get me? So for instance, round into bracket F11, comma 1. So here we are looking for just one decimal just one value after the decimal point. Okay. So we are going to do a similar thing here. So we type round, bracket open, and then we state the cell containing the formula. Sorry, computed results. Then we bring comma. How many values do we want after the decimal point? Okay, so here let's state one, only one. And then close the bracket. Then press the enter key. What do you see? It is rounded up to what? To only one decimal point or decimal place. Okay. Please look at the format for the round again. Round into bracket, the number, comma, followed by number of what? Digits, bracket close. It's not the same as this. So you notice that the round function cannot contain a cell range. It can only contain one cell at a time. Okay. Let us copy this function. So put the mouse pointer on this dot, then we drag down. Okay, so it has reduced all these to just one decimal place. Alright, so that is how we use the round function. Okay, we are done with the math and trig function that you will need to learn under this course. We come to some of the statistical functions. And the most common statistical functions that we use are mean, max, average, mode, median, and rank. Let us look at each of these and their use. The mean function. This function is used to determine the minimum or smallest among a set of values. In other words, the mean function is used to find or determine the least value among a set of values. The max function. The max function is used to determine the highest or largest value among a set of values. It is used to determine the highest or largest value among a set of values. Average function. This function determines the average or arithmetic mean of a given set of values. If you've done statistics from at least P6 to secondary school, then you should know the meaning of arithmetic mean. And if you remember, the formula will be sigma fx over sigma f, if you remember. So if you want to find the arithmetic mean using functions, then we use the average function. Please note that unlike minimum and maximum, which is cut short as mean and max in spreadsheet, average is written in full. So in exams, if you write av, or in the spreadsheet, if you type av, the computer will not recognize it. We state the full word, which is what? Average. The next function under statistical function is the mode function. The mode function determines the value that appears most among a given set of values. Then we have the median function. This function determines the value which is found in the middle among a set of numbers when those numbers are arranged from lowest to highest. This median function determines the value which is found in the middle among a set of numbers when those numbers are arranged from lowest to highest. The last function we shall discuss under statistical functions is the rank function. The rank function determines the position of a value among a given set of values. The rank function is used to determine the position of a value among a given set of values. Let us type the information here into Excel. So you pause the video and type them into Excel. And when you are done, you continue playing. But for want of time, I have already entered this information in Excel. But let us look at examples of how we state or make use of these functions. So we have, this is the format for the mean function. So we type equals mean, then the arguments are enclosed in the bracket. And we have an example here. Mean into bracket A colon A5. Max equals max. This is the format for the max function. So equals max into brackets the arguments. The examples are max here, that is if the values are not following one another. So you state them individually, A1, A8 and D9. So you want to find the highest number amongst them. But if they are following one another, we have equals max, then you state the cell range. Alright. The format for average is equals average followed by the arguments in parentheses. Examples are equals average F16 to F50. That is if they are in a range. But if they are not in a range, then you state them individually. The format for the mode function is equals mode followed by the arguments. We have example here and this one as well. The median function, the format is also as this here, median, then followed by the argument, and we have the example here, median into bracket A2 to A20. Then this is also an example. However, for the rank, the format changes a bit. Of course, this is also the argument, but there are more parts of the argument. So we have equals rank into bracket the number which you want to find its rank, followed by the reference. And here the reference would be the other numbers, including this number itself, for which you are trying to find this number's position. So for instance, if 10 students are in a class and they scored various marks, and you want to find a particular student's position or rank, it means you have to compare that person's mark to the rest of the students, their marks, before you can determine that this person's score as compared to the others his or her position is this. So that is where we have the ref. Okay, then we have the order, and here the order, do you want it in ascending or descending form? Do you want it arranged so that the first person, the person with the highest score becomes first, or do you want it in such a way that the person with the least score is first? So that is the order. But here, for the order, we only use 1 or 0. 0 for ascending and 1 for descending. Alright, so let us practicalize all these. I hope you have already entered the information as you were told to. Okay, so these are students and these are their scores. Now we want to find the least score obtained among these scores. So if you want to find the least score, then which function do we need to use? Of course, we have to use the main function. So you know that the format for the main function is equals followed by typing the function's name, which is min, min. Then you bring the bracket open, and then you notice that the values are in a range. So we bring the first cell containing the highest value we want to include. We bring colon, and then we type the last cell in the range, and then we close the brackets. And when we are done, we press the enter key. And after pressing the enter key, the result is computed, and we are told that the least value amongst these is 20, and that is Ajiman K. Solomon's score. Okay, that is the least score. Again, look at the function stated in the formula bar. Okay, let's move on. We are told to find the highest score. You know that to find the highest score, we have to use the max function. So we type the equal sign, and then we type the function name, which is max, M-A-X. Then we bring the open bracket, we type the beginning cell reference containing the first value, which is this, B20. Then we type colon, and then we type the last cell, which is B27, and then we close the bracket. And then you press the enter key. We get to know that the highest score is 29. And when you come here, you notice that Abebio Theophilus scored 29. Adams Masawood got 29. And J. Francis also got 29. Again, look at the function as stated in the formula bar. Alright. Let us find the average score or mean score. If you remember, we use the average function to do so. So you type equal sign, and as I said, for average we type it in full, average. Then you bring the opening bracket, then you type the cell range, and then you close the bracket. When I select from the beginning down through to the last, you notice that when I selected from the beginning through to the last, you notice that the range is stated with the column, but I am asking you to type so that when it comes to you writing on paper in exams, you will not find difficulty. Okay, so once you are done, you press the enter key, and the average score is what? 375. Let us round this. Do we need to? Okay, let us leave that because we have learned how to round figures already. We are told to now compute the commonest mark that student scored. And if you want to compute the commonest mark, the function we would need to use is the mode function. So we bring our equal sign, and then we type mode into bracket. This cell, you type your column, then you bring the last cell, or you type the last cell, then you close the bracket. And when you are done, you press the enter key. So the commonest score is 29. So let's see, 1, 2, 3. Okay, so that is the commonest score among these values. To compute the median for these scores, we type equals median into brackets, then you state your argument in the parentheses, then you close the bracket, then you press the enter key. So the middle value is what? 25. I hope you are following. So we have learned how to enter or use mean, max, average, mode, and median. Let us look at how we use the rank function. You have learned that the rank function is used to determine the position of a value among a set of values. So what will be this person's position as compared to these scores? And the format for rank is given to us as equals rank into bracket number, and here we said we will type the cell reference or containing the number of value, followed by the reference, then followed by the order. So equals, we type equals rank, followed by the bracket open, and the number is this. Okay, so we want to find this score, its position. So we type the cell, then followed by comma, and then followed by the ref. And here the ref is the entire range, which is B20 to B27. You don't leave the first one out, it is included. So you select the entire range followed by comma, and then you are to determine the order, either 0 or 1. So I think I made a mistake in explaining. So 0 is for descending. So the person with the highest mark will be first, and the person with the least mark will be last. For ascending, the person with the lowest mark will be first, and then the person with the highest mark will be last. Okay, so here we choose 0. So you type 0, and then you close the bracket. Look at the syntax very well. The number followed by the cell range containing all the scores that we want to find this one's position, then followed by the order, which is either 0 or 1, cannot be any other number. When you are done, you press the enter key. So we are told that by comparing this value to all these, this will be first. So the position of Abebio Theophilus is first. But let us copy this formula down. When you copy this formula down, what do you notice here? Here the cell range was, the reference was from B20 to B27. But when this formula was computed, and because all the cell references were left to be relative, you notice that here the reference, this is the score, which is what? 24. But the ref begins from B21 to B28. But when you look at B28, there is no value in here, which means this value is also left out. So the possibility that this is wrong is true. The reference must always be the same. This score must be compared to all these. This one must not be left out. When you check this one too, the same thing. B22, and the reference start from where? B22 to what? B29, which is this. But it is wrong. The reference must be only this for all these cells that the formula or function is copied to. So what we need to do, we have to make this cell reference as absolute and this cell reference also as absolute, so that no matter where, B20 must be made absolute, and B27 must also be made absolute, so that it doesn't matter where the function is copied to, these references will remain as constant. So what we do is, we have to bring the dollar in front of B, and we put the dollar in front of 20. Okay? Then we bring dollar in front of B, and then dollar in front of 27. So now our ref will be absolute cell references. Now let's press the enter key. Let us copy this formula. You see that now we get the right score. You see this one was 5, but we notice now it is what? It is 6, because you notice that now all the other cells containing the values we want to compare this person's score to are included. So you see that when we copy the formula, this did not change and that did not also change. That is the essence of knowing about the types of cell references. When you come down here, it is the same thing. This score here is being compared to all these. Okay, look at the function, how we state the function again in the formula bar. So in the class or in school, if you are told to enter the scores of students and determine their positions, you don't need to do that paperwork. No, you just enter them into Excel. And then the Excel program will be used by the computer to determine these positions for you. Okay, let us take a break. And when we are back, we shall continue our lessons.